So welcome to the Seasoned Scholars episode. And today our guest is Professor Tejraj M. Amina Bhavi. He is PhD from the University of Texas at Austin. And he is the editor-in-chief of Chemical Engineering Journal. And several others, in fact, because in our format is such that we let the story be unfold by our guest. So that's why we will not use a lot of the introduction, but I can tell you that the person sitting with me today is a institution himself, and a lot of things there to learn. And so with this short introduction, and also the more description can be found in the details with these videos. So thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation for today's talk.
Sure.
So our conversation will be three parts. Part A, where we will talk about your journey and motivation. Part B will be your lessons or your take-home message for all of us. And part 3 will be being human. It means where we will try to know your dislikes, your favorite food and movies, and like that. So let's just start with part 1. And part 1 has the first question is that please briefly let us know about your journey in your own words.
Well, I am Tejraj Amina Bhavi. I was, I was the fourth child in my family.
Okay.
I was born in a village called Gadag. It is a small village of about 10,000 people in those days. And this is way back even before independence,
Wow.
I was just going to primary schools up to fourth standard in the same city. And after my fourth standard, and we completed our Mulki examination. In those days, it is called as Mulki. Mulki means seventh grade examination, and I passed that seventh grade examination as kind of a bright student. In fact, when I should say that with proud, because I was first to the city. So then my father asked me what you want to become. And since age of 12th, I decided I must become a scientist. That was my
Wow.
number one priority. Always I used to think there was a very excellent teacher in mathematics. Then comes the next stage, the high school. The high school education is like, I have to walk like 2 kilometers a day and 2 kilometers come back, because that was the only high school available in those days, called as Municipal High School. But teachers were talented, very talented. And, I was admitted into that school, and at very high level, even Olympic also. He was also a player in Olympic. So that has impressed us. And we used to, play around a lot. And 4 years of my spending in that high school has taught me a lot of lessons and disciplines, because in those days we also did some social work, social networking work. In those days, like you go to the street, cut the trees and convert that into a small road and do this kind of activity, I think, in those days. And it was just interesting to me because I liked the hard work. And, we had done that before. And so therefore I was quite impressed with the kind of hard work. We were teaching us chemistry, in general science, and mathematics was kind of poor there. In a small city like that, there was absolutely no college, not even single college. The only college I could think of is Karnataka College at Dharwad. Dharwad is about where I am now. Dharwad is about 70 kilometers from Gadag, and train, there were only 2 trains, one in the morning, one in the evening. So I just used to get up in the train and then come to the class, get an admission in that college, come to the class and go back in the evening. That was the kind of journey I used to follow for
Every day. I mean,
yeah, almost every day,
Oh my
except
God.
maybe Saturday, Sunday.
Mhm.
So coming to the college at about 10 o'clock in the morning, the train used to start at 6 in the morning, come to the city at about 10 o'clock. Those days, these are really talented professors, so much impressive professors. And chemistry also was an interesting subject, but though I was so much interested in chemistry, but teachers were kind of okay, normal level, and we had to struggle hard to learn more chemistry ourselves. But the college was well equipped, lot of facilities, and even the building is completed my BS. BS was completed with those days. So these are the 4 years. And in 1968, I completed my BS degree from the same college. And then the next stage is like going for masters. Master's degree was parents were encouraged, and how to do it. Then I had to have a job. So what is the next stage? Next stage is search for a job. Uh, I I just applied for a job and I got it. Just in a matter of about 1 month, I applied for one demonstration position in the same university. It was available. I just sent my application. It's just a white paper and pen, and I just wrote and I just gave it to the head of the department. He recommended you are another month or so because no phone, nothing, and he also took like 3 months to write me back, but by then I lost my interest.
Oh.
What we can do, I thought, okay, let me start teaching chemistry. So I started teaching more and more. I took more interest, and
Teaching privately or
no, in the college, in the university.
oh.
It's
Even
a
if
government.
that was not in your job profile, but you used to teach.
Yeah, I used to teach,
Mm.
and that really made me to learn more and more about the subjects because I was teaching electrochemistry, I was teaching thermodynamics, I was teaching kinetics, and all these subjects, which has helped me to understand more and more about the basics of chemistry. And at that time, I thought maybe if I go on teaching like this, okay, I can retire as a teacher. So already, 5 years are coming close to 74. In the year 1974, I thought, I still do not get a single place where I can get a proper guidance to do my PhD. Let me start applying for abroad. In those days, going abroad was a great fancy. So I applied
No, so my question is that why didn't you try just after masters
for what? For
for
going to
abroad,
for what?
for going abroad?
Yeah, because my financial situation. I had to take care of my parents. My father was too old, and immediately during that time only he passed away. So then my mother was single, and then I had to take care of her. I had to convince her that I am going abroad, and it took me almost 2 years to convince her that I am going abroad for for higher studies because she's totally illiterate. She was not knowing anything about education. All she knows is, oh yeah, my son is working in a university. That's all she knows. And when I told her that in 75, that was in the year 75, in the month of April, I received one letter, 1975. And in the month of May, another letter came from California, UCLA. And then Canada and so on, other letters started coming. But by that time, when I received the fellowship from Texas, the fellowship offered by Texas University was, those days, government of India would allow only $8 and stamp
Wow.
passport, nothing more, not even $1 more. And I traveled, with great courage, I think I would say. And of course, I didn't know anybody in Texas. I just went to the airport in Texas, landed after 18, 20 hours. I realized that how to reach the campus. From the airport, I could see a tall building, which was the University of Texas Tower. I just looked at the tower and I thought maybe I can walk because everybody was going in taxi and this, that, and I know all the vehicles were coming and picking up people. Then I asked one passenger, I asked him how to go there. He said, are you crazy? It's like 10 miles from here. It looks very near, but it's a tall tower. What to do? I looked at my purse, hardly $8. If I pay to the taxi fellow, then what to do? So then I asked one taxi fellow, I asked him, what would be the price? He said it would cost you around $3 to $4. Then I said, what? I had no other alternative. Just I went there and I took a taxi and I had fortunately one letter was given to me from my city, whose teacher was in the same city. And I went to a place and asked a fellow to call this particular number. Where is this house is? And they said, this is a place where he should stay. And then I kind of called him through his land phone. In those days, even the mobiles were not in America. No, they were not there. All the land phones and all the coin operated phones. I didn't have coin. So I asked somebody on the street and he called and he said, here is a person who has come from India. He is talking about you. Can you come and pick him up? Yeah, he came. He's Mr. Kulkarni at that time. He was doing a PhD in physics department. So that was a great opportunity. I never met him also. He was like 10 years older than me. And, then I went to his house and I stayed in that house for the overnight. Okay, that is one part of the journey. Second is academics.
Yeah.
Then what to do next, Okay, next is I have to go to the department. It's one of the biggest departments. There were like 60 professors and something like 30,000 students. It's a huge campus. UT Austin, is one of the biggest campuses in the state of Texas and also in the southern states. And next was UC Berkeley. Berkeley was the next biggest campus in those days. So I just went and met Professor William Waits, and I asked him, I'm so and so, and I just, okay, come and he was so warm, and he said, do you have a place to live? I told him that I just got a place in my friend's relative's house, and that is only for a temporary, and I will find and this and that. I told all the details about my living. And I was not bothered about it, but one has to worry about the living also, where to live and what to do. The next person I met was John White. Probably people know him. John White was one of the very famous, physical chemist. And the next person I met was Alan Bard. And then these are the people, in fact, who have established their careers and names in the field of chemistry. Alan Bard was one of the, till today, is one of the famous electrochemists of this century, in fact. And, next was, kind of a journey, what to do and how to take select courses. And my interest was in polymer science, but all big stalwarts, we're all looking too small in front of them, but everyone was so friendly and everyone was warm and welcoming and all good introduction and things like that. And of course, took courses and gone through the course structures. And in 1 year, I completed all my course structures and with successful attitude. And 75 to 78, I almost finished my work and submitted my PhD. And 79, I got my PhD degree in polymer science. But I tell you that campus has taught me so many important things, because in life, UT campus is such a campus where I learned many, many things. Number one is discipline, and the top people in the field who are working in chemistry and in fact, Nobel laureate like Prigozhin, and there were a couple of MJS Dewar. Dewar was an organic chemist who was teaching us course. Professor Alan Bard is one of the famous electrochemists. So these were all the stalwart scientists on the campus, and their teaching and their discipline has helped me so much, and so much so that I learned many, many things. And today, in fact, I would say whatever I am today, what I reached today is my journey on this educational journey is the attribution that I can give to my higher education in the University of Texas. Because and 79, of course, when I finished my PhD in the month of January, we did more work in engineering. At that time, I developed more interest on applications of polymers in membrane science. And my PhD was in thermodynamics of polymers in solution. And based on the thermodynamic knowledge, we dabbled into the solubility concept, because those days Hildebrand, probably everybody knows about Hildebrand. Hildebrand is a stalwart in thermodynamics, and we learned so many equations and theories that were developed by Hildebrand. Then Florey came to the campus at that time, Paul Florey, who was the Nobel laureate in the year 1974. And with him, something went. With him, I was interacting, and then we went for developing more about the scientific discoveries in polymer solution thermodynamics. And in chemical engineering department, I had a interaction with some of the people who are now in the helm of affairs. In fact, one of my colleagues was Professor Chorus, who became the editor-in-chief of Journal of Membrane Science, and then he moved to Atlanta, and I used to meet him quite often. And late afterwards, 79, 80, 81, I came back to India, joined the Karnataka University for a short time, for nearly 6 months to 1 year, and again I went back and spent another 1 year at Clarkson University in New York. And there, it was the best university in adsorption, because BET, Braunover was there. Braunover is the founder of BET equation. He was already old, he was already 80. And Peter Juman was another giant person in electrochemistry. And we did some work along with him and Kirker and Milton Kirker, who was a famous light scattering man. And after after 1 year there, my wife didn't like the weather of too cold weather of Clarkson University, Clarkson City, and we came back to Texas again and spent a year. Finally, I came back to India in 1983 to join Karnataka University as a lecturer, but with some kind of a commitment that I will spend only 9 months in India, 3 months in Texas. That was the kind of commitment I made. So every year, my 3 months were spent in Texas. From 1984, 85, 86, I think 3 years I did not go. 87 to 2000, almost 13 years continuously. Continuously. I had a program there, program here. So my students would go there and come back. That is the kind of establishment I operated that way. And of course, in between, I had a couple of years of sabbatical leave. And during that sabbatical leave, I wrote a book on Introduction to Polymer Science, which was published by Wiley. And during this time, I was associated with Professor Prigozhin. And during my student life, DST used to conduct meetings in Delhi. So there was a professor called Professor Contractor in, I'm sure you may know him from IIT Mumbai. He must be retired now. He said, Abhinav, why don't you come and give a seminar on polymers at our institute, IIT? I said, okay. And his flight was the earlier flight and mine was later flight. And in Delhi airport, when we were sitting by my side, there is a CEO from Reliance. He just asked me, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to be retiring. What are you? Because I was correcting my manuscripts. He saw all that. He was sitting by my side. Then he asked me, can you visit us? I said, yeah. He asked me all about my details. Then he asked me, can you visit us? I visited him. When I went to IIT, I went to his office and I just met him and he said, can you join us? Immediately, it was like this. I said, I am retiring another 1 week or 2 weeks. But can you give me some time? Yeah, you finish your job and you come here on 1st April. Why do you wait? This is how it happened.
So that is the a lot of time during the subway from Japan, from my residence to university. I
Yeah.
corrected a lot of papers. So
Yeah.
that is of course,
Best time to work. I'm sure you must have done that.
but you were doing at that age, is surprising, is really nice
I was doing
to
it
see.
from right from beginning. That was my
Of
habit.
course. I have no doubt. Otherwise, you would have not reached there. But point is, until the 3 months before the retirement, you are correcting the manuscript.
Because I had 7 students to finish.
See,
Even at the time of retirement, I had 7 students who were working with me for PhD. I had to finish their work. And the day I retired, by then everything was finished. I did not even allow them to wait for me. I finished everything and went and joined. Once I joined, I did not come back. Because that was the plan. So I had to finish some of the manuscript. And
So
all these.
actually, I would like to congratulate you for your century H index. As per now, as of today, Google Scholar shows 100 H index of yours. And oh my God, if somebody has to think that they are getting a lot of citation, they should look at yours, and they will be humbled by that. But I can say that this is the dint of your labor, consistent persistency, and that's it's what. And today, when you talked and the way you remembered everything, it says that you lived those journeys. It's not that you just happen to have on their journey. I have some questions that I picked up during your when you were explaining your journey. Why did you choose to return to India? Why not? Of course, you said one about your wife with the not liking the weather, but you could have changed place in USA, or you go to Europe or somewhere.
Yeah, I changed the place to Texas back again. Texas is close to Indian weather. But then what happened, my mother was alone. Take care of the mother, and of course, do something on the motherland, and do some service to the people who are coming from my country. Today, I can tell with a great proud that my students, at least 13 or 14 of them, are well settled in USA, because I used to take them over there. They know what is the exposure of the United States things. And today they are in millions of dollars level people, citizens in the United States. Some of them are professors, some are working in big industries. That made me very happy, because, I thought maybe, coming back to India, training our own students and
No.
sending
I
them.
mean,
That
I am
is
not doubting or questioning your decision. I am just trying to say that what kept you away from that greed or that the attraction of remain there. Because of course now lifestyle in India is somehow getting closer to
better.
that, but that time it was huge difference.
It was big difference. I tell you, when I come back, I didn't have a test tube in my lab. I didn't have proper beakers. I didn't have proper glasswares. And I had to build everything myself. And I built. That was the pleasure I took. Because if everything is there, what fun is there? You just do science. But I had one best chance in my life. That was God-given chance. I could go to America again, back and back. That was the best thing in my life. So every 3 months, I could meet Alan Bard, I could meet Prigozhin, I could meet Goodenough, I could meet all these people who are working in materials, polymers. I could meet my professor, write grants, and apply more grants. Then go to conferences and things like that. Was a pleasure thing. I had the best of the two worlds. I have no regrets at all.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you the kind of you for kind of H index or the citations that you have, the kind of place you achieved in terms of academics and as well as reputation. Of course, salute you for that, and that is why we have the Indian representative in this field who is still signing. My another question is that because you had experience of working with many Nobel laureates,
Three of them.
yeah, so this is huge. I met I didn't publish anything with any Nobel laureate. Yeah, I saw two person. If I will include Hillary Clinton, then it is Hillary Clinton also got something, some peace prize, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the two people I know, nuclear, and so that is I met. Even meeting them, looking at them is so different, and so aura is different, and this one. But you worked, you published. How was different working with them?
And it was a really great experience because, another story I tell you, Brian Josephson. Do you know Brian Josephson? He is in Cambridge. I spent 4 visits of 2 months each in Cambridge University at physics department. And during that time, I took a project from Qatar, government project. It was funded between Cambridge University, Cavendish Lab, and also Qatar University. During that time, I recommended 2 of my students as postdocs there. And during that time, Brian Josephson was right across my hall. Brian Josephson is a person whom I met in 1977 at UT Austin in my car, and I used to take him over different places from physics department because I was a friend of that physics professor in physics department, ECC Sudarshan, and he used to tell me, can you take Brian here, there, and all. So that is the kind of friendship I developed with him. That was in 1977. I met again Brian Josephson in 2000. 2010, not 2000. 2010. That time, he was surprised to see me in his office. I said, Brian, do you know me? He said, yeah, I think I know you. Where did we meet? He said, Austin, UT Austin, you took me for coffee and tea and lunch. Yes. Then, it was such an interesting, I have a lot of photographs along with him in Cambridge campus. We used to meet every day on coffee place and talk about more things. And I went to his, office, and there, you can see him sitting in front of Murray Gell-Mann and Feynman. These are the people with whom he was associated. So these are the people who really inspired me, inspired in the sense that they were such a great human beings. They were not only scientists, they never had any intellectual arrogancy. They were so humble, so honest, so nice, Even Alan McDermott, when I go to his office, he would walk by himself and bring a cup of coffee for me first. And then he brings his coffee and sit in front of me and drink. This is the kind of people that I enjoyed and relished my relationship with them. And it was there for a long time, but of course, life has to end at some point of time. And that is the part of life. That is the philosophy of life. So therefore, these are the very great moments, very nice.
So actually, yeah, I know that. They have been. Sometimes I am just telling you about that. I feel that whether they have become humble after getting the award or after getting the recognition.
No, Prigozhin was even before because he taught me thermodynamics even before when he got the Nobel Prize. Ilya Prigozhin, because 75 I joined, 76 I took a course with him. He was teaching irreversible thermodynamics, and we used to call him as poet of thermodynamics in those days.
Wow, that itself says.
Yeah, great. And he was humble even at that time. And of course, next year he won the Nobel Prize. People were talking that he would get the Nobel Prize. And during that time, in fact, Feynman came to give a series of lectures at UT Austin. And because his teacher was there in the campus, because Feynman did his PhD at Cornell, and in the Cornell, Professor, what's his name? He's professor. He's a PhD guru. His name I kind of forgot now. He was, in fact, he had published a paper with Bohr, Neil Bohr.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he used to call him, and he would come and give a seminars. We were all so impressed with the kind of seminar that Feynman was giving. Like sign actor on the stage. That space, spin, quantum mechanics. If he goes on talking, sky's the limit. I mean, they just take science as natural phenomenon. I mean, the way he used to express.
Yeah, what I realize is that if such a lecturer or the such knowledgeable person, when they talk about these things so naturally, then we think, oh, these are generated by human also. Otherwise,
I'm coming to the point why they become so generous and so humble is because of the in-depth thinking about science. They forget rest of the world. They only think about, of course, scientific discoveries and how the science can help the human. That is the kind of, I think, the mindset that they develop. That mindset will make them humble. That's what I feel. My way of answering your question.
No. Very nice. Actually, this I want to take it further because. So, do you think that a scientist should emerge in the science more and let cut off their strings or those things, and it can keep them away from those jealousy or competition or those things? Is it?
Yeah, tell me.
So, is it true that a scientist should do that way? That they should emerge in the science?
Number one is we're human beings. We should have the humbleness. We should have the sincerity. We should express what is true, what is wrong. If we are not that, then even though we are publishing this, publishing that, I don't think it is not worth it. As a human being, I'm talking only as a human being. As a human being, we should be sincere, honest to our job, honest to the science what we are doing. Then only we can flourish. Today we are seeing so many things. As an editor of Chemical Engineering Journal, I can tell you, I meet many different kinds of things. Many. I don't want to explore or explain things. But one publication should bring you laurels. That's what his approach. I have seen this with most of these big shots who have done their most talented work, or like this only. They have come up in that way, and most of it is like, in McDermott case, hardly there are one or two nature papers, but most of them are in synthetic metals or something like that. Applied polymer science. They are okay. They are kind of journals where everybody can publish. So ideas are more important. That's what he would say. And even like graphene, how graphene was developed. Graphene received the Nobel Prize, but what was the it was such a small thing. Even fullerene, fullerene is again, fullerene discoverer. He taught me, he taught me. He's in Rice University. 2018 August 18 also. I met him and I had a photograph of him. I will send you if you wish later. I will send all these photographs.
Yeah. Please send me, because it should be run during our talk.
Yeah, and actually he's such an interesting man. Till today, he is now 88. I sent him a greeting. He sent me back on the next day. That is the kind of the sincerity they have for their colleagues. I think more of it is humanity. Kind humanity is because of their good educational background, good educative type of mind. That mindset is very important. With loans here, loans there, manageable. And then my brother supported me in BSc and Masters, because he was already settled in Dharwad. So he supported my education. I would not have come up without his support. That is most important in my life.
And the most important is that you acknowledge it. Now I know that you must have superseded him in your achievement. But you acknowledge it at this age. That is any brother would have Loved
Without
it.
him, I would not have been in this city. I can tell you that also, you know. He was,
And before closing down the question on your journey, just it may be a foolish question, but did you try to change from Karnataka University to some another institute like IIT Bombay or somewhere?
no,
Did you try?
never wanted to come to IISc and also NCL, but I said, okay, but I never took it serious, you know. So
Yeah. Thank you. No. I think for doing science, we don't need a stamp. I mean, if we can create, and because your research networks were with great peoples.
you know, today I have collaborations from all over the world. You know, if you look at my recent publications, you know, I have collaborations in Belgium, collaborations in Portugal, collaboration in UK, Cambridge, and active collaboration in Korea, active collaboration in Australia, active collaboration in China. Last year, I visited China 4 times to give seminars and lectures and educate the students how to write papers. You know, that was my lecture tour, and everybody appreciated. Now I will send you all the details because I can send you even the lecture details. And you know, sometimes when this COVID goes up, maybe I can come to your university.
Yes,
I would
yes,
love
yes.
to do that. You know, I would love to give some kind of a training kind of a thing for youngsters. How to write papers? What is the level you can think of writing a paper? What level data you require? Where do you choose? How do you choose the journals? And how do you choose choose writing papers? You know, these are
Yeah,
very
so I cannot stop going in that section now. I will go to that section now, that about the journal. Of course, I will start from when did you seriously involve into this editorship? Which journal invited you first, and like that?
2000. I think 2000, I was in Polymer News. There was a Polymer Gordon Bridge. It was a Gordon Bridge journal. And I was involved as a editing editor. You know, so it's called as a editing editor. I don't know, it was a funny designation. And I used to write about the polymer education all over the world, not only India. It is more of a popular stories, which helped many readers. You know, at the college level, they would read and understand what the work is going on around. That time, I brought a lot of this. Universities and 1 or 2 IITs from India also to put their educational program into that journal. That was like 3 to 4 years. And then after that, of course, I was on advisory board of this Journal of Applied Polymer Science nearly 20 years. And they offered me the editorship of Applied Polymer Science, but I kind of did not take it. And then immediately after that, you know, this Chemical Engineering Journal, because of our citations and immense publications in that particular field of membranes and wastewater treatment particularly. That is, they were looking for somebody who can create a niche in this journal with with his background, you know, membrane science and applications of membranes for wastewater treatment particularly. So they selected me and they asked me whether I can take it up as a associate editor. I said, of course, you know, that is my field, so I will definitely take. This was in 2012. 2012, almost now 9 years I am associated with. And during that time, I think we brought this up. I almost looked at all the papers published some 10 years before, looked at what kind of papers are very important, what kinds of papers are not important. Then we started bifurcating the whole thing and rebuild the whole section of environmental chemical engineering section into that, and particularly membrane science section. And I developed it in such a way that, you know, the only focused areas are getting it. The impact factor of CEJ at that time was something like 3 or 3.1. And I thought, you know, we must really increase it. How do we do it? So, of course, it is a collective effort of many, many people, not only just one. There are other editors related to materials and, you know, bioreactors and membrane reactors and things like that. And then slowly, you know, we built it up. The next year, looking at our progress, they offered me the full editorship, and after that, we took it, and now I have got 4 AEs, associate editors with me, and I can survive with a big load, but still it's a load by itself. It's a good journal, and I enjoy
Yeah.
reading more papers, and I never try to uh, ignore the work of anybody. Everybody should be given equal weightage, and I never make any compromise. No compromise with
So
as
I was interviewing or having a conversation with Damia, Professor Damia Barcelo, the editor-in-chief of Science of Total Environment. And we talked about desk rejections. Because what is your thumb rule? I will not giving him.
Rejection is based on many factors.
Yeah,
Number one is we look at first whether it is scope, within the scope. If it is out of scope, then we can't consider. Sometimes I look at it and then try to transfer it to my other division. That's number one. I look at it. If it is not even beyond, not there, if it is beyond that, then I suggest a sentence saying, you better go to this journal. That's number one. Secondly, we look at the plagiarism issue. There are 2 things in plagiarism. There may be a plagiarism of 50%, but still the paper is good. Because now CEJ is allowing abstract, if the preprint is published, the entire preprint can be published in CEJ also. At that time, it is 50% plagiarism. So that if the authors let us know that it's already printed, then we will allow it.
It becomes a lottery.
No, in my case, I think it may be happening true. I agree with you. In my case, unless I check every details, I will not send it to my 4 associate editors. In fact, today morning only I sent about 8 papers to my associate editor, one of them, 7 to the other, another 8 to the other, another 8 to the other. So that means about 32 papers I sent out. But when I sent out, I go through it. If I have to reject it, I myself reject it. If I have to process it, I myself will process it. But if it belongs to some of those areas where they can make a better judgment than me, I will send it to them. But again, it's left to them. But we have a lot of meetings and internal things, but some are very tight, some are not very tight. Then I keep a track of what is happening also. They send me CC and other things, and I know what has happened to that paper, this paper. I can remember very well what I did. I can remember your conversation with me during your submissions, and But this is a game. This is a kind of a good game with authors. I was also an author. I'm still an author.
Yeah.
It's see, one day you are there, and next day you may be there. So it's a matter of chance. So
no, it's nice to see kind editor-in-chiefs. I can tell you that now I can share because I wanted to have your opinion first. So he also said that we do not do it for the sake of doing it, but we feel that everybody should get a fair chance, and we think that if 3 of the author thought that we are a right venue, so we should also consider that one. And then if there is so we should be lenient to have them an opinion, to have them a reviewer remarks. And and the same thing I have seen, that the compassion for the authors, for the work should be there.
Many times, many of the editors, what they do, if there are 2 rejections, they don't even look at simply the reject. But I don't do that. 2 rejects means how they have rejected. There are some reviewers who come to the point that you should cite my papers. If you do not cite my papers, then it is rejected. No, they don't say that, but what they send the message.
They imply it.
Yeah. They try to, that we never encourage. I never did that in my life, actually.
That this is in the scope of this one, because if you sent out for review, that means our paper is within the scope. And we are the 3 authors, and another reviewer is also there. Maybe there may be some associate editor. So this 6 versus 1. Should we think that this rejection is fair? Then the editor wrote me back within 5 minutes that then you have to wait 1 month. more. And then he sent to the review, and rest is the history.
No, I
So,
generally, if I feel that, sometimes in a rush it may also happen. The best work also may gets rejected. At that point, if it has happened only a few cases in my entire career of almost close to 10 years. But in such a situation, I go through it again second time. In fact, there was one about last week. I get a lot of these things, back and back all the time in my emails. And in fact, there was one author. Of course, he's a IIT Delhi product who is now settled in UK. I don't want to name it. And of course, he has requested me, can you please go through it again? Of course, it was sent to a AE, and he sent me back. Then I went through the details, and I felt that he was right. I resigned it. I requested the AE, can you send it to me? I resend it, and it is accepted. Finally, after my, sending it out and all that. So these things can happen. So,
yeah.
but if authors have the right to write back to us, and that will be considered very, very positive, at least in my case. And most of the people in our journal, they all are very kind. And we have, unless we have two rejections, strong rejections, we don't reject. Other journals, one with one rejection, they reject.
Yeah, good.
In our case, two rejections. Also, I will go through. There are some 3 rejections in some cases. I will go through detail. When there is a rejection, I will go through more detail. Pinpoint what exactly is the situation.
Actually, you are like a judge, no? This is a.
You're right. You're right. You're very right.
So it's a very tough job. In fact, I can tell you is that nowadays I am doing some managing guest editor of some good journals. It's so difficult to reject. I mean, even as a referee, if I want to reject, I need to write a long letter.
Yeah.
If I have to accept, no need to write too much.
Yeah.
So that is.
But I congratulate your university. It has come in a good ranking. Your IIT.
Yeah.
In a very good ranking, 150 or 155.
155. And these last 2 years has been very phenomenal. So we are expecting more, and recruitment has been now happening more. So still we are very less in number in faculty, but we are going to increase.
Yeah, it's good. Very good.
Yeah. So So now I am.
To come to Dharwad once, I will invite you. I will make provision to invite you, and maybe we have some youngster staff. A very young staff, and they would like to interact with you. And in fact, I told them already last week that there is, in fact, Dr. Manish Kumar, and he's from this IIT and doing good work. And you should have some contact with him and try to establish some good links and things like that. I told. They have gone through your profile, and they were very happy. We're very happy. And I also told that he is having a podcast meeting today. Don't call me today, because my students always bother me.
No. They are lucky that they can bother you. So, sir, what is your advice for somebody how to evaluate their own work and how to choose a journal wisely to save time and energy on multiple rejections?
It's a very tough question and very difficult to answer, but I can, with my little experience, whatever I know, if you are publishing too many papers in a journal, for example, even in CJ, suppose if you are publishing at least 1 or 2 papers in a year, you will know the level.
Yeah.
So if I do this, it will go. If I don't do this, it will not go. You know it. So the best judgment is the author himself.
Yes.
Then supposing if for some removal of toxic metals, emerging pollutants, things like that, that is fine. That's how we look at. I think that's where you think of looking at the submission, because now CSA, like impact factor is going very high, and even the number of manuscripts coming in are way high nowadays. Already we are doing about 13,000 as of today.
Oh my God! The rest half year is remaining.
Nearly 30,000, submissions, and it's all over the world. It's not just one place. And
Yeah,
unfortunately,
CEJ has, the I,
along
yeah,
with.
but CEJ is leading the pack. So I was asking that for a student, because when you said that the student or a writer or a author should know that what to, but what should be the thumb rule? Because we have always no the falling for our own work. It is always like that.
Yeah, but if your students or postdocs are ready to publish one paper in CJ or JPC or JAX, you tell them, like, can you go through all the couple of issues, like, volumes, one or two volumes in recent years, whether this topic is covered well. Some topics which are covered so well previously before my joining are not there now. For example, I can take
Yes, yes. So
supply
current trend and current
trend,
focus is also very much.
how the trend is moving. So based on the trend,
Yeah. So that is why I mean being on the current is important, and that's how the McDermott or who has told you about the impact. Brian has told you. I don't know that whatever you have, please publish it. The impact factor is not so important.
yeah, correct. Yeah, true.
So
You
here
know,
I have to. Yes, please.
yeah, tell me. Yeah.
Here I have two ways question. One way is that how impact factor is important for a publication, and in your way ideas or in your terms.
Well, it is a
Uh,
funny game. Before I never worried about impact factor. In fact, some of my papers which are widely cited, very widely cited, are not having any high impact factor. So impact factor, I don't think, in my opinion, it is only a fashion these days. I don't think it has any impact at all. The
yeah,
work
it's
is
just a kind of advertisement.
it is an advertisement. You always say, "Oh, I published in Materials Today," which has an impact of 28. Progress in Polymer Science, 30. So progress in Material Science, it is 26. This is how we go. But even some of the editors are also playing this kind of a game that, it's a very high impact factor journal. It's not easy to publish. This is kind of a new market trend, I would say. But good work, no matter where it is published, has a good place, in my opinion. My earlier career, I published nearly about more than 100 papers in Journal of Applied Polymer Science. The impact of applied polymer science at that time was one or two, but they were all well cited papers because we did to our knowledge, we did a good work, we felt. They were all well cited. And another work was like ACS journal, Journal of Chemical Engineering Data, where we published again more than 100 papers. In fact, the other day, one professor from IIT Chennai called me and said, "Sir, you are the only one who published more than 100 papers in this particular journal." I said, "Oh, I stopped that journal about 10 years ago. I'm not doing that anymore."
Yeah, sometimes you make the record, other keep the record. So
Yeah, I was surprised. I never counted that. So he said, "Shall we make one kind of a volume, just based on these contributions?" I said, "No, we don't. I don't think this. I don't believe in self-advertisement. Just do it and then forget it. I mean, whatever that happens, that's the end of it. Next, what you think is new thing.
Uh, so, I mean, here just because we are talking about impact factor, I just want to take a very quick reply that um, have you not seen this Nobel laureate to be like, I have won the Nobel Prize, now I cannot publish less than this at least.
Not like that. No. At least I know two people, they never bothered about it. No. But their name itself will carry that level.
Yeah.
Many times, I don't think they have written the paper, but just their name on the paper,
Name is there,
they will take
paper is
it.
accepted. Yeah.
This is how the trend is going on nowadays. This is the trend, I would say.
Not nowadays. It is human trend.
Yeah, human trend.
And so it's nice that they used to check, and that's why the name is very much important.
Yeah.
Um, so this is this brings. I mean, this journal writing and publications are we say it is passport, or it is our medals. No?
Yeah.
That is we put it on our. So I wanted to ask you that number and quality. I mean, I don't know that what is the. It says that quality is
Yeah.
a very vague term, but still.
Yeah, I always talk to my friends and my students. I have got about 3 to 4 students now, actually 3, and the fourth one is he's managing the rest of the groups. He is always worried about the numbers. I told him, never do that. The moment you go on numbers, quality will come down. You take one paper and make it thorough, do it thorough study, and make it about 3 to 4 times. In fact, I am correcting one work on a COVID paper, electrochemical investigations on COVID detection. I think I made about 7th correction today. So they get a little bit of frustration. But I said, doesn't matter. I don't care. It has to be. Maybe it will be more work for you, but one paper is enough instead of 10 papers. That time you can publish 10 papers, but no, one you publish, but the best work. People should cite it. That's what I am after. I go for that. I always advise my students only follow this track. Don't follow the numbers. Number game is very bad. Numbers
So
will come
number.
automatic.
If automatically something coming, but of course, just to have a number, another one more is not good practice.
Yeah.
How about but citations you matters?
Citation is very important because your work should be cited. Otherwise, if there is no zero citation, then maybe sometimes even very good work also don't get cited. Sometimes because others are not working in that field. For example, my professor, like Professor Peter Monk, he's a German guy, and he's still active. He's 90, close to 90 now. He's at UT Austin, and his work was not cited. In fact, his citations were much lower than me. Every time he said, "You are my legacy." When I meet him, I get so embarrassed when he says that. Yeah, he's my guru, but actually his work is so unique and so different. It's so creative. Nobody does that kind of work nowadays. So then there's no question of citing. So this is how the papers get not cited. It all get zero cited, but they are there in the literature.
No, that's what is the point I wanted to make, and it is very nice that you already captured it in your first reply itself, because.
So it all depends on the.
No, this I also.
Yeah.
I also attribute it to this fast life of network or email rejection, resubmissions. That process has fastened so much. Otherwise, I know that in my time I was going to the library and checking my papers like that. In your time, you must be sending your paper through SIP for review, and so so this turned over time. So this inflation of 3 to 5. I just say it like a inflation. I saw it as a inflation, not a real increase. What happened is that number of paper has published, and that's how I feel those
aspects. Earlier, number of paper increase is very difficult because I used to send my papers by airmail. It would reach America 1 month. I would get the reply again by mail, which would reach me another 1 month. So like that, it was a slow process. Now everything is in 5 minutes. If nothing happens, it will come back.
One paper can be under review today, getting rejected today, again submitted in today, and goes again under review today.
Yeah, it all happens in 1 day.
It cannot happen
in 3 months. 3 months to 1 day, that is the difference nowadays. For example, when I went to America for the first time, 1975, to call my home, I had to wait for 1 day. Because I called the operator in New York. operator will connect to India, then he will say, no, connection is not possible. It is possible only next day. Then I would talk to my wife after 1 or 2 days
Oh
after
my
placing
God.
the call. You know, this is the difference. Today, I just take a mobile and click it, and that's it.
Mm.
So that is the speed of life.
Yeah, a speed of life, I think. Yeah, not light, a speed of
No,
life.
we lived in a very slow life, slow pace of life, which was good.
So, yeah, so sir, yeah, I do adore my 90s life rather than today's time. But I would like to see, I would like to have your impression about, you have seen several kind of a speed life of a speed that you just mentioned. Just just a reflection on that. Of course, you have given the example, but how to cope up this, because you coped up different the speed. So how to cope up this speed?
Yeah, because this is a very difficult situation. Because earlier days, I used to write everything by pen and paper, and then give it to a typist, and he will bring it back and correct and send it back and forth. This was the kind of thing. Now, to cope up with computer speed, it takes enormous amount of more on the other side rather than thinking. Thinking is gone nowadays.
Yes, yes, yes.
The real thinking is lost. For example, even including me, I lost my writing habit because of the computers. It was hard time for me to learn the computers some 15 years back, because these things started only about maybe 20 years back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Earlier all, just manual kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take a print and make correction and give to the secretary and see.
Yes, yes, yes.
That speed is different, the speed is different. But there in that speed, there was a lot of creativity. But here creativity is lost. Most of it is cut and paste. Even I see most of the work, cut and paste, cut and paste. They come. What to do? That is the easy life. So I call this as easy and comfortable life than what it was. You must have seen even chem abstracts, We used to go through the chem abstract stacks, like sometimes you take the ladder and go up and get the papers, the volumes down and write down and put it in a notebook and write and see what is happening. But today, just Google and get it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Ease of life. It has spoiled, I tell you, this has spoiled the mindset of people in terms of creativity, in terms of creation of new knowledge. That's why, of course, I want to talk it off the record that why Chinese are not getting Nobel Prize, why Japanese are getting Nobel Prize. This is the difference. Chinese are so fast and so mechanical in doing things. Creativity is lost. They have everything. They have instruments. They go and do it. But Japanese, they have a different approach. In Japan,
yeah, I know.
This India, some of the people who, even you take the example of Rabindranath Tagore. I mean, what level of philosophical poetry he has developed. I mean, and even Ramanujan, mathematician. Look at the way they have looked at science. Can anybody be possible in this world? I mean, today with all computerization, with all
No. Actually, to be very, very honest, I didn't want to go do higher education because the kind of knowledge I used to see in a master student, I thought that no, I cannot take that much load. Because so earlier master, somebody who has received his master degree in 80s or even before, they had another level of knowledge.
correct.
Now if I teach, I will not say where, but they will say, sir, ये तो mid semester से पहले था. मतलब
Yes.
in the session they will not remember what is taught before the semester, mid semester, and now this feedback turn that he who is a son is judging his father.
Yes.
I mean, yes, you can adopt a lot, but you cannot put this and then you use that stick not to
Yes.
reward, but not to reward, never reward, but just to punish. If somebody has got something bad, you will call that person, and it can be many things. If you are saying that, look, the entire syllabus is coming in the end semester, you are an unpopular teacher.
Yes, that is true. Yeah, because earlier teachers, they were all going to the blackboard, use the chalk piece, explain things, and everything is like visual on the spot.
It should aid to our study, because if I want to make a earth or volcano by my hand, it may take a lot of time. But I should explain by, of course, and explaining, because as it appears, it imprints on the brain, and it has the different. I know that energy environment in JNU they used to teach, and equation we never realized after that oh my God, this equation was of 5 pages.
Yes. But one thing I learned from Professor Ilya Prigozhin lectures, classroom lectures, almost 3 semesters I took his lectures on thermodynamics. This mistake must be right. This leads you to think. And then, you have done mistake. Okay, that mistake is not intentional. It is by fluke. It has.
Yes.
But it ends up in a good theory or something, So this is what he was telling, that by making mistakes, I learned many things, which are new things today. That's, these things may not happen in our PPTs.
Yeah, never.
So
and
time factor is there, it's quick and that is slow. But still you learn many things,
Yeah, and I take it is very much alarming by you is that creativity is being lost, for sure.
Most important, without creativity, I think science cannot be progressed. Otherwise, it's mucky, just do whatever is there, add something and subtract something, you get some results.
Yeah. In Japan, my PhD supervisor used to say that you cannot take concentration from ICP mass. You take absorbance, convert it into concentration by yourself.
Correct.
You cannot.
Yeah, that's why in Japan, I'm sure you have lived there. I didn't live, but I worked with Japanese. They convert everything into their language.
Yes.
The most important thing for them. So they try to understand exactly what they want. They have even translators, So that is very important. We don't translate anything into our language.
Yes.
Either in Gujarati or Marathi or Hindi. We just try to, imitate the real English into English.
So, there was one saying in Japan is that business. But if somebody will go to Japan and they will say, I want to do business with you, they will ask, do you know Japanese? If not, please go and learn and then come back to me.
And Japanese never do business single. They combine together.
Yeah.
Any business they combine together, and there is a decision which is called as a collective decision. There will be 3 or 4 people join together, make a decision. That is that's kind of a good creative decision actually. Single decision may be wrong. That's what they think. Actually, I got that the prize, the Nikkei Asia Prize in Japan. I stayed there for 1 week and I visited all the universities, including Tokyo. But the kind of things that are happening. In fact, I went to Fukushima lab. Fukushima who discovered TiO2. Because my student was a postdoc then at that time there. So that was, they were also creative scientists, everything for the first time, And even, carbon nanotubes, like Fukushima, I think, they're all like real investigations.
Even real investigations.
Conducting polymers also, like Shirakawa.
Yes. So on that topic also, I would like to have one conversation with you in future. But here now, let's your advice or your philosophy for teaching. I mean,
yeah, my teaching goes back to the olden days. I have not classroom teaching for the last 20 years. I have not done. But in the beginning, I used to write everything on the board, everything on the explanation. My 1 hour lecture, I used to prepare like 2 hours, at least 2 to 3 hours in the beginning. And then, even in America also, we're not using, we're again using I taught in America also in New York City and, at Stony Brook. And there also, we're using a board and a chalk piece because this was in early 80s. Still it was a good thing. But later on, PowerPoints and all these things started. I actually, except my lecturing, I don't do regular teaching on PowerPoints. Never.
So my question was that what is your suggestion for a young teacher or like me and something that, okay, uh, so any advice? Because when yeah, please.
No, every time, even you as a modern teacher today, as of now, you can still go back to the, chalk piece and blackboard. Nobody will stop you to do that. And at the same time, club it with our PPT
Yeah,
presentation.
I like clubbing.
Then take half the board for writing. It
Hmm.
was very effective. I feel
Hmm.
clubbing
And
50-50 is good.
no, so my point was that when I was coming back to India to join as a faculty, I went to my teachers at Tokyo University and asked, give me some suggestion. So one suggestion was, he said, please don't take students very serious. Don't make too much effort. I mean, what happens is that when we teach, we feel maybe that person has not understood, and then we again make them understand. And then again, so he said that don't make too much effort. So similar kind of in similar line. Is there any such advice?
No, what I used to do, I follow the Western system. When I came back to India after my graduation in UT, I used to teach in the class, ask them questions. It's a very open class. Anytime they can stop me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I give them homework assignments. That's where I used to assign them. Every class will have a homework assignment. Either some conceptual homework or some calculational homework or some graph making or some experiments to be done and then come back with the homework assignments. That's where I felt it was a very successful story because even my students who are now in University of Connecticut, two of them, they said that, sir, your teaching method was so good that even I follow it even till today in US, University of Connecticut Health Science Center. This is so nice because I was teaching quantum mechanics at that time for them. And I never, of course, I used to write the equations and all that on the board, but at the same time, if you give them homework assignments and the problem orientation teaching, I think it is much more valuable to the students than classical, like a teacher used to come and look at the window and go on speaking. Whether students have understood or not is not the right way, in my opinion. Ask question, stop, stall, and ask question again. So that should be the way. It should be like a more of a discussion type rather than one-way traffic. So I feel I believe in that, like asking questions. Just by doing that only, we spend 1 hour. That's good. People understand, and from the face, from the body language,
Yeah, that is
you
very much
understand
important.
whether
These
students
are
are
electrodes. These are pH papers,
correct,
which tells us
correct.
if
They
reaction is
should,
happening or not.
yeah, when they are stuck like this, no, I can make out, okay, this boy
Yeah,
doesn't understand. Then I ask question, do you understand what I'm talking about? They say no, that's fine. Then I
that's
ask,
fine. No.
come back to my office, I will tell you.
So yeah, I mean, our talk is getting so interesting, and I feel like we just missed the tea. We
Oh,
just missed the tea. That
it's okay. I
okay.
will come one day to your campus and you can have a large number of cups
Yeah,
of
yeah.
tea.
I will
Gujarat,
make you.
Gujarat tea is so good. I come to Gujarat quite often. In fact, I'm supposed to come in September.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So that time we can plan things.
I come in.
Um,
In fact, I
just
help set up a lab there in Surat, and they are doing good job there. So
no,
myself,
no.
but
So you don't need to even wait for the September. If you want, I can send the invitation, and you can come early also. Whenever you feel like traveling, I can
yes,
send you and we will pay for travel and everything. That is
that's okay.
those things.
I
Yeah.
I'm okay now to travel.
Okay. So now this is because you said that you had even a course on how to write a good paper or how to write a paper. So can you just 2-3 minutes spend on that how some advices that how to write a good paper?
Yeah, while writing papers, this is what I teach my students. I always tell them, you select a topic. Your topic is already selected. Effect of pH and temperature on this reaction mechanism. Okay, fine. That's one thing. And then, you have another, because it's not only one topic that you are working on. Whether that work, what you are referring, is it at least recognized by somebody in the literature? And who is the one who is recognizing? This is how I test the knowledge of that another, the knowledge given by that author in that paper, If that is the case, then use that concept in writing your work. Your writing is like main objections and the abstracts are there. Abstracts and the conclusion I write at the total end. Everybody starts from title, abstract. No, you start with your introduction of the literature, see who has done what, who has not done what, and where you want to contribute. What is your contribution? And those points you have to jot down and then look at your data, see what your data say, what others' data say, how your data falls into that framework, whether it falls into the framework, if it doesn't fall, then where it falls in, and how you can fit in into this model compared to that model, which one is a better model. So that we need to select. Sometimes your data may be negative, doesn't matter, report negative data, it's okay. And never try to, my students, I always tell, never try to manipulate anything. Whatever comes, put it in. It is up to the journal editors or referees to look at, and if they come up with a bad remarks, it's okay, accept it positively. Even, my papers even get rejected in CHS, so what? I like it. I like it, I never process my own papers, but I send it out and, they get rejected, fine. I'm happy.
Yeah. This is it is fair. It is fair.
Yeah, correct. And in our journal, we have made a policy not to process our own papers. No, never.
No. That cannot be done. Yeah.
And that is not good in science, So.
Okay. Yeah. So here comes, there was little bit two other questions, but I think that we have talked other things covered more. So I will pass on it. Just one quick answer that I ask because some of the common question I am asking from my all guests is that one of them is that how to select a good PhD student.
That is, that is their desire. If they come on their own, and we can ask them, why did you come to me? That's the first question. Do you think that because I can produce papers fast? No. Do you think I can give you a degree fast? No. Do you think I can give you more knowledge? Yes. I think if that is the kind of student who can come to you for the sake of knowledge, not for the sake of degree, not for the sake of number of papers, then I think we should accept such students. And also their desire, we can see their desire also on the face, whether they are genuine or they are just coming for commercial type of PhD and just work for 3 years and get me PhD, that. And if somebody comes to us, oh, I really want to work, I really want to learn something from you, doesn't matter what time frame it is, I don't have time frame, but give me some support. At that time, we become more conscientious about supporting their work. And that is how I think I have been successful in selecting students, but most of them are also successful in their career. And except maybe one or two here, I produced about how many? Now they are not dependent on us. They have a lot of other connections. They go to the website and check here, check there, change their CV and apply here, apply there. Even without informing the supervisor, they can get something somewhere. This is how it is happening. But we can't help that kind of attitude. So those who come with sincerity and honesty to learn things, I think we can recognize, with our experience.
Yeah. And but of course we can do our bit of fair things, but at the end of the day, that personality is also going to be. Okay, so with this, we have just one question left in that A and B. Then we have only the last one is that, did you had any conflict with your PhD supervisor? And whether your PhD time was the most difficult time, or because sometimes it says that during a researcher life, the most difficult was their PhD time.
Very, very good question. My PhD supervisor was a tough German, very strong-headed German. He would only ask me to get me the final paper ready before submitting. He would not bother what I am doing. He would support me in all respects. Half the time he used to be traveling to Europe or here, there, everywhere. Only 6 to 8 months he used to be in Texas. And he was that kind of a professor. So he said, I'm giving you this kind of a problem. Here is the key. There is the library. And here is the Xerox machine key. You can Xerox the entire library and come up with a problem or solution to this kind of a problem. He gave me a problem. He gave me some direction. But he warned me. He said, this problem I have tried with earlier 2 students. One was Michael Halbrook, could not finish his PhD even 7 years. He warned me. And I said, I was a little bit shocked. Many people do not have, they have a lot of conflict, some problems.
No. Actually, what I feel is that I can tell you is, if you want to work on groundwater, why can't you go to my colleague who is working on groundwater? Because here we do not overlap each other domain. I said, no, sir, I didn't. I have developed a relationship also, because it has been 2 years since I know you, since I understood you through your email, so for me, PhD topic, of course, is important, but now I cannot imagine to work with anybody else.
Yeah.
So it's I take it that once it is a committed, it's similar kind of a father boy and son relationship. It's similar like supervisor and student relationship, bad or good, but they can make up each other. They can those things, and they can be complementary to each other. And that is the way it should be. Okay, sir, thank you. This is part A, part B completed. This is part C, where I would ask your now relax, no need to. So now I will ask you about some hobby. What you do when you are not working?
Okay, I go for a long walk. That's my hobby. Go to the nature, go on top of the hill, sit there. And tennis is my favorite game. I watch tennis. In fact, I was very disappointed that Roger has lost his game. And this is my in fact, I used to go personally to attend those games. And I had bought seasonal tickets in America, and Cincinnati last 2 years I went and watched the games. Roger, I was just close to him, and that is my fancy. I just go and watch them physically, not on TV. But no, this thing, because my daughter is still in Cincinnati.
And also looking after your children, because all are so educated and everything.
Yeah, travel is like, I go to America and stay with my daughter for 1 week or 10 days.
No, but during 2002 or those time, from 87.
Oh, from earlier days. Oh, my
earlier days, when they needed your attention. My point is that how did you take care of your children?
Oh, my children, at that time, see, I was only 3 months going out, Before that, I didn't have children. Up to 81, I didn't have any children. Only after 81, I started, keeping my family here and me going only for 3 months, to US and coming back. So my wife used to be in India and take care of the children.
Okay.
Then after some years, I used to take the entire along with me. They have my children have seen almost many countries along with me.
That's good. That's good for them.
Even till last year also, my third daughter, she traveled with me Istanbul and all countries, because she has meetings all over the world. Yearly once or twice, I used to go. And then, I have collaborations whenever they invite. In fact, in France, Lorraine, I have a professorship. Australia, I have a professorship. Whenever I go there, I take my daughter along with me. And, and then Korea also she has come. Singapore she has come. Japan she has come along with me. So like that, she travels with me. I try to take them along with me. So they will also help me to carry my, luggage or whatever you call. And it's a good company,
Yeah.
and for them it's a good education.
Very good education.
Very
How
good
did
education.
you? How do you handle pressure?
How do I
Handle
handle
pressure,
pressure? Okay,
or
it's a very
rejection,
good
or
question. Very good question you are asking. I am not going to be under pressure many times, except maybe two times. I get up at 4:30 in the morning. 4:30 to 5:30 is my meditation time, 1 hour.
oh,
And
wow.
breathing exercise.
Okay.
Yeah, 5:30. 5:30 to 6, I do some mild exercise.
Mhm.
Not a machine, but free exercise. And by 7, my wife wakes up, and then I drink a cup of tea and kashai and this and that. Go for a long walk, 1 hour, 1.5 hours. 8:30, I come back. 8:30 to 8:45, I just relax. 9 to 10, I finish all my morning hours, like eating or breakfast and bath and everything. 10:30, I'm out. So I don't have any tension of any kind. Come back at 2 o'clock from the office. 2 to 4, I take rest, total rest. I eat and take rest, just lie on the bed, nothing else. I don't think of anything. 4 o'clock, cup of tea. 4 to 8, again back to work. I am on computer, because a lot of duties, a lot of things, manuscripts, correction, this, that, projects. In fact, tomorrow I have one thesis defense to UK University, and 26th I have another thesis coming from Malaysia. So I get involved in those things, and time goes away. And between 8 to 9, watching TV. I hardly watch TV. I had no time to watch TV, and spend time with my wife, and enjoy life. And I have no tension at all. Sleep at 10 o'clock, get up at 4, 6 hours.
Um, Sleep at 10.
10, before 10 even.
When do you take dinner?
I take dinner 7:30, 8,
Okay.
between 7:30, 8, sometimes 8:15, 8:30, before 8:30,
Mm,
1 hour before sleep.
sleep.
And then, just this is my routine.
So, if somebody has just provoke you, your anger, then what?
I don't get angry at all. I have no angry life or angry mood in my life unless somebody really insults me, But that occasion has not come. And unless somebody touches me with, see, I have one thing, I don't know what irritates me is people telling me not the truth irritates me a lot. So any student who comes to me, I tell him three things. Do not lie to me. Be honest. Whatever you do, tell me, good or bad. These are the three demands. Rest, I don't want anything from you. Whatever you want to learn from me, you learn, go. I can help you. But don't ask me help. I will decide whether to help you or not to help you. But most of the students I helped. These are my demands. So we don't, and I tell you, I never expect anything from them. Never expected. There are instances when somebody finished PhD, there are a large number of people they join and dinner. That's fine. That's okay one time. But no, no other things. No. I don't receive any gifts or anything from any of my students. Just I don't expect, number one. So do things and forget. That keeps you happy. If you expect something, you do help and forget it. If you expect something from them, then we become unhappy. That's where the stress will get in. So that I think I have been following since beginning. That's
Uh,
my whether my
Actually,
philosophy.
that is I didn't start this conversation. I started learning myself or teaching myself. Is that, or
Mhm.
this is also maybe known as midlife crisis or something like that. So I am at that juncture again, that I have done a very fantastic job. I'm very happy with my career, how it turned up. But now I felt that it's time to get educated, or get that piece of that where I am going. Let's plan something, and then learning like this, whatever you are talking, and some other guest I mean, I feel grateful to God that I have this enriching experience. God has given me that much that you agreed to talk to me for this aspect. So thank you so much. I mean, every day you wake up at 4:30.
Almost every day, but some days, during my younger days, not possible. And even in America, I was doing it. It is my life practice, not just now.
So do you think I would take little bit more time about
Sure, sure,
meditation
sure,
because meditation is something I am not still could do it. I know that this is very
So that's unless you
helpful.
practice, it is like, unless we eat, we can't say it is sweet or hot material. So we have to experience it. But, to my level, whatever best I could get into that level, yes, I can. 1 hour practically, not breathless, I am breathing, but my mind is not here for 1 hour in the morning. That 1 hour in the morning, what you do, what you practice, will be a relaxation for 23 hours a day, remaining 23 hours. Next day cycle, it calls you back again. Now it is time for you to do it. This is how it happens. And
But
only during travel, long travel, it's not possible.
yeah,
Maybe a
yeah,
couple
yeah.
of days. But other than that, you can. I have absolutely not noticed any, tiredness in working, tiredness of this. I'm tired of talking to this man, tired of doing this. No, you don't feel that. You're always flying in the air.
So how to do it? I mean, because you have practiced it like since 26. I mean, 50 years
It is
almost.
by some guru. There may be a lot of things that you may do it wrong if you read and do it. It has to be practiced with a guru. There are a lot of people who can, the qualified guru. But later on, no. Today I can switch off my life just like that. I can sit for 1 hour, no problem. Without
Wow.
thinking, yeah. But I don't do it at night. Usually morning.
No need to do. But I can tell you that I have. I am always fascinated by the people's life because what makes us separate us from animal is the learning that we pass on the generation to generation. So if I get any experienced person, a elder person, I want to greedy, like learn
Yeah,
to. I
that's
will
good.
ask more and more and more.
Yeah, that is good because that's how we learn. Even Brian Josephson, I told you, Nobel laureate, how we
Mhm.
became friends because of meditation. He is a meditator right from the age of 27 till today. When I went to his lab in Cambridge, he took me to his house and showed me how his room is. It's like a rishi. I asked him questions and questions and questions, and he told me that this helped me to overcome the criticism about my work. Many people used to criticize my work after Nobel Prize, but this helps me a lot. That means you are not bothered. You are not in this world. You are totally stunned. You are stoned. You don't have any life at all.
So
This.
here is my another question. It in Gita it says karmanyeva adhikaraste. I mean the karma is
Yeah,
very
yeah,
much.
yeah.
Yeah. So if I get so much detached from the world that neither criticism nor somebody is doing something wrong to others or me will affect me. So doesn't it makes me takes me away from my duties or for my righteousness?
No. Even by sitting in your office, you can do that. Around you, just shut off everything. You can do it in your office. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, you can practice that. That helps you a lot. You'll get a brightness in your mind, total brightness. Your thinking goes differently. Your creativity will increase. Your breathing habit will be changed. Most of us, till actually, human is supposed to live for 100 years, but we are not. Only few people can. But
Yeah, yeah,
most,
very few. Mm.
that's how it should be built. That's the human body is built for 100 years, provided you follow some of these. But at the age of 25, 26, 30, already students don't work, they fall, and if you give them more work, no, I'm tired, and these are not the habits of life.
So it means, so I guess you never indulge in drinking or smoking?
No, I never smoke. Never
And
smoke.
drink?
Once in a while, on maybe 2 or 3 times in a year when I meet my professor on the first day. He's a German, he won't leave me without. He will give me some kind of a drink, and that's it, about maybe 20 ml. That's how. That's gone.
That's a celebration. That is celebration.
That's gone.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm totally a vegetarian, and I take vegetarian food, and rest of the other things are all normal things.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, some nutrition is required for the body, and we select the nutritious food, and these are all required for your physiological functioning. So we do have that, and otherwise, you need to maintain also. The body is such that it is a God-given thing, and you need to maintain it. Maintaining is important. Just like a car, give for servicing. If you don't have servicing, then it will
It's very nice. I mean, let's suppose that even in research, because you are a very passionate researcher, if something is not coming out, or you are doing experiment and after experiment, but
then after that, then you come back and then try to achieve that remaining 10% and make it perfect, and then be happy. Whenever you want to go for perfectionist, you are in trouble actually, because that keeps you in disappointment.
loop of doing things and improving.
And that will make you disappointed also. Wanted to do this, but it didn't happen. But what to do? Don't worry. I mean, that's part of game. Win and lose is always the game.
Mm-hmm. So my entire idea of having this conversation and bringing out is that to let them say that, see, we can do better than a frog who goes for estivation and hibernation. So let the time be passed. So I wanted to your.
It is more of it. What you are asking me about is the positive thinking. If a man has a positive thinking, all these things will get dissolved. Positive means in the sense, okay, this has to happen, it has happened. Is there any way that I can avoid it to happen? If somebody is going in a train or flight, meets with an accident, can anybody do anything? Nothing can be done. No, there's no even to worry about it. So you take it that way only, in that sense, just take things as they come. Make more positive approach in life. Be positive towards people. Never be negative. Negative thing will kill human mind. That is and if
so even if somebody is trying to, kill you, you will not have that kind of thing.
Forget it. I mean, that's too small for you. Those things are all just nothing. They come and go. That is life. Life is too long. So why we should bother and then worry and then create our own health problems? And see, health problems are our own creation. It's not anything else. It's not even environmental effect. Either you would see, even people can live even with a heavy smoke area. It will affect to some extent your internal body system. But still, if your mind is strong, you can overcome that also. There are, how many people survived out of COVID, you tell me? COVID is such a dangerous situation. But many people, even at the age of 90, they survive. It is only their willpower, positive thinking. It is not the body, it is the willpower, I think. That is very important for a teacher. For a teacher to be successful, you are there, you are coming up, you are in IIT, you are a professor, you are publishing in good work, and you are having projects, you have so many students. Definitely people have, you create more enemies. The more you work, the more enemies. Not only here, even in Western countries, it is there. Even in any country, it is there. But that's human. So, see, for us, who is the enemy? Another human. Not animal. Animal is very faithful to us.
Oh my God. To be very frank, sir, I was really tired by the time 5 p.m. today. And I thought that maybe 1 hour it would be enough. But, oh my God.
It's okay. I mean,
mesmerizing talk, and I am laughing. My cheeks are getting tired with joy. My full body is joy. There is no lack of energy. My tiredness has gone. So you are you are a monk in such a way, in one way or other.
till today, unless I walk 10,000 steps, I have it in my record. I keep a record of my walk. 10,000 steps means about 6.7 kilometers. That is the minimum I walk till today. And sometimes it goes to like 8 kilometers per day, my walk. And in fact, the last visit in New York City, when I went for this, I visit New York quite a bit because of work with the Elsevier. And, Elsevier calls me for every year, once or twice for a meeting. I go there and advise on certain topics. That time in New York City, just for fun, I walked, it was 20 kilometers per day.
Oh my God.
I was not tired. It's okay. I come to a hotel and then I just watched it, and then only I realized, oh my God, today I walked 20 kilometers. And even
Okay.
London also, that Cambridge University, I was living at about 3 kilometers away. People used to take bus in the morning and bicycle and things like that. I used to walk. It is 1 hour back and 1 hour up. So 2 hours, it's fine. I mean, you take pleasure and look at the nature.
No. Actually, I am just trying to make myself that from tomorrow I will be religious. Uh, oh my God, no, not. I mean, if you have worked and given so much time and still could achieve so much, so I don't think there is a need of lack of time. It's a lack of will that I am not going to work. And today, I take this that no, every day I should work. So, what are, if you have to name it, what are your three major strengths?
In fact, in research.
No. As an individual.
As an individual, my three major strengths are: I have an excellent family support. Excellent family support. Number one, very important. Anytime my wife will support me. Anytime. My children, extremely good children, no problem at all. Family side, no problem. That's the first thing in everybody's life. If family has a problem, then you have a problem. Whole life is a burden.
Problem. And actually, I didn't meet. I mean, the first time we are having the face to face, but I already get to understand that you love your wife, and I mean that you both are really in. Good.
Number one is family commitment. Number two is health consciousness. Three is your surrounding habits, like people with whom you are associating. If there are some people who want to take your advantage and then give you some bad things back, that kind of people we should try to avoid. We should not argue with them, try to avoid. So we
should not argue with them, right?
No point. Such people, no point in arguing. Why do you argue? There is no point. Argue in a basic, good quality people with scientific background, we can argue. If they do not understand what your argument is, then it gets into quarrel, Then quarrel to jealous to animosity. These are the things, These are all multiple things, like multiple vitamins. So that these are my strength. I never bothered people. I never, I used to mix, but to the extent that is required. Beyond that, no. Never went out with parties and this and that, Whenever I require food and other things, I would call them. I come and join my dinner.
So this makes me to ask you that whether doesn't it affect your research network or social network?
Research, I couldn't understand you.
Research network or the social network. Because if you are not going to the parties or meeting people and those things, whether that have any effect?
That we do it wherever there is a requirement. For example, we go to ACS meetings. We have to have a networking there. We have to have a social. No, what I mean is like gossiping network. I'm talking.
Yes.
that kind of thing. Gossiping, no. If there is a scientific meeting, if there is some social meeting,
So you advise that we should not be involved in gossiping.
gossiping, maybe to some extent, okay.
To some extent, just
Especially 5
our
minutes
cup of tea, but
and cup of tea, and that's it. Okay,
mm,
that is, life, social life.
yeah.
You can have an argument in science, scientific work. That is fine. That's healthy. But other than that, just human relationships, if we have interactions which are not required, then I think that's a poor
I
way.
don't know that if I am right person or even I can dare to ask, but it is in my question paper. Is that something you are not good at it?
Okay, I am not good at helping undeserving.
Yeah.
If you help an undeserving person, Gurukula
Gurukula,
is something, which is a holy place. Gurukula is a holy place. They used to say "Kai mugidu olage ba" in our language. When you want to enter in, you treat it as a god temple.
Yes.
And that is really true. Saraswati Mandiram is, it is a holy Mandiram. There is no money involvement. There is no other animosity, anything. It is a free learning, Like Sarvajna, how Sarvajna became such a great man without much of learning. It's only by experience.
So, sir, how much importance the money has kept in your life?
I think money was earlier. I never bothered about money. Earlier means in the earlier days, like age of up to 23, 24. When I became a professor, teacher, money was important to me because I had to support my family. And I never had any excess money any time. I had what is required, I had it. And when I went abroad also, I donated some money to my brother because who gave me some very good education. And I never bothered to get it back, and I never expected also. And I have also donated some money to my friends who at least one of them was deserving help, and I did that, and I forgot. And then when I came back, probably after 5 or 6 years from USA, practically I was not having that much of money. But in those days, even when I come back to university as a reader, in those days, readers, which are equivalent to associate professor now, I was getting like 900 or 1200 rupees even in 80s. It was a small salary, but I never felt that I need money more than money.
I don't know why I asked this question, but if I would have not asked, this interview would have not completed.
No, that's okay. That's fine. I usually distribute these things to my family, daughters. You take. I'm not crazy about it. I'm not, as I said, I never expected, and when it comes, distribute to somebody. Why I can't. How much I need. I need 2 dinners in the morning, one morning, one night, afternoon lunch, 2 breads. What else you need? You don't require more money, right? I mean, why do you need? And when everybody get educated, why we should worry about those things?
Oh my God, you are another level. I don't know, but yeah, this is good for me to have a thinking and.
My human mind is such that my mind works. Where there is a negative thing, I try to help and make it positive. That's like a poor boy comes, sir, I don't have any some problem. Okay, what you need, you take it. Don't even think of paying. If I have some surplus, I share it.
Good.
That makes me happy. That really keeps me happy. If somebody comes with hunger, okay, take the food and enjoy.
Now I have only 3 questions remaining. The first one is among this is that what and who has affected you the most?
My father, number one. He was a highly principled man. He was not a rich man, but not a poor man, both. Highly principled means real principled. And he never liked things which are wrong in life. And he taught me the only way is you should get education. I have a fancy for buying foreign cars, Honda or Toyota, and things. Because my first was Ford and then Toyota, and then all these American cars.
Okay.
I
What about movies?
movies. I am a very poor observer of
Not
movies.
movies. Okay. Any bucket list? I mean, anything that you would like to do in next 5 years or 10?
Next 5 years, what I'm planning is, you see, I went to a college after my Reliance work. That is a pharmacy college. The principal of that college and a lot of staff members are all my students because I did some pharmacy research, and they're all my PhD students. And the management also was my student manager. You know, the chairman of the management. He came to my house and, sir, can you come and help me out? At that time, I had some CSR project of some lakhs, maybe 10 lakhs. And I said, take this money and develop your college. And he said, no, come and sit in my college, try to help. I went to that college and I helped the research staff to get more funding. And a college which didn't have any funding concept, I made them to get at least 2 to 3 crores of rupees in terms of funding, because I made everybody to write projects and all that. So it was very nice, and I told them how to publish papers, how to work, how to write projects and all. So BARC, DST and all that, they got the funding. After that, I was there like 7 to 8 years, just like 1 hour, 2 hours, I used to go and help them out. But I never took honorarium. They said, we can give you honorarium. I said, I don't want money. Give me a chair, give me a computer, give me an office. When I come, you give me a cup of tea, that's enough. So that's how I was with them. Because, small college, didn't feel like taking money. So then, my mind didn't work that way. University vice chancellor, who was my former student, he became the vice chancellor recently, 1 year back. He came and he asked, sir, I want to make you as a Diamond Jubilee professor for life. Well, yes, okay. But again, no money. Okay, fine, create an office and I come and help water treatment processes. That I already planned, I already told my student. So my student is now going to be the head of the department there.
Wow.
I somehow pulled him out and put him there. Tomorrow they are coming to discuss with me. In fact, they wanted to come today. I told them postpone this meeting. And they probably offer me a position of director of research. And they promised 1 crore for my student and 50 lakhs for our activities, whatever activities we want to do. And then I said, if this is the kind of support you give to our students, and each student, PhD student, should get at least 10 to 15,000 rupees per month. For doing research it's a good private university, very good.
What is name?
KLE Tech University. Technology.
KLE Tech.
KLE Tech. I will send you the details.
Okay.
After August, I want to also get you into that university because of your engineering background and IIT.
Thank you.
Maybe we can have an MOU with you, if you are.
Yeah. I think they will be happy in IIT Gandhinagar. So now, last question. If you were not an academician, what you would have been?
That's a good question you asked me. You know what happened? Actually, it has happened. There used to be in those days, not IAS, it's a KAS. KAS and KPS examinations. Karnataka Administrative Service, Karnataka Police Service. They used to combine them and call them as just like UPSC, KSC, Karnataka State Public Service Commission type, I just, for the fun of it, there was one English professor who was in Karnataka University, and I, being in chemistry department, we both attended the exam, and he could not pass and I passed the exam. This was after my MSc. Immediately after my MSc, when I was serving in the college. Just for fun we did it. Hardly there were 15 rupees fee.
Oh my God.
And I paid and I was,
So you would have been a very...
I was selected. My name appeared in the list. I was surprised. I never thought that I would be selected at this competitive examination. How is it that I'm selected? Then finally there was an interview by the chairman of that UPSC in Belgaum. Those days there was no money dealing, nothing. Everything was merit. I went and they said, you have a good height and good physique, and we will not give you KAS, we will give you KPS, Karnataka Police Service. That means I would have been IPS today if I were to accept. Then I said, okay, sir, let me talk to my parents and I will come back. I was still young, not married. Came to my father said, never go into that service. No, I don't want you to. He said, these are all corrupt jobs. I don't want you to be into that kind of line. You better be a teacher. Then paid me to follow his path, and then I gotten into PhD and all that.
I am then sure he was so right. He saved one scientist of India and of the world, in fact.
I was influenced by another friend of mine. Let's attend this exam. That's so, because he used to come and I used to teach him chemistry part. He used to teach me some English things. So we both attended. I passed and he did not pass, unfortunately. He could have passed, he was very interested.
Oh my God, what a journey you had. I felt like I finished a movie of a very interesting and I think what happened is that I started this conversation with thinking a editor-in-chief, very high prolific writer or the publisher or scientist. But I can tell you that I end up with even seeing the even more larger a human being behind that scientist and behind that.
Thank you.
So it was a very illuminating effect. I hope it will have. I hope means I would be changing myself to be that kind of person. Thank you so much for being with me on this evening.
Okay, thank you so much, Manish Kumar.
Yeah.
And we'll be in touch, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night. Say sorry to ma'am that to take you.
I already told them. They know it is common to them.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good night.